Week number 14 of the 2025 fantasy football season kicked off with a banger with the Lions defeating the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football. In today's video, I'm going to help you guys right your wrongs or build upon the lead that you were able to get in week number 14 already on Thursday Night Football. We're going to be breaking down my top 20 quarterback and tight end rankings and tiers for week number 14 of the 2025 fantasy football season. But before we can get into things, please make sure if you are new to the channel and you don't have to join today's video, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. We begin in tier number 1 with the quarterbacks with my must-start high-end quarterback ones, Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford, as well as Joe Burrow. Inside this tier was also Dak Prescott as well as Jared Goff, but they already played on Thursday Night Football, so we're not going to be talking about them since you can't just magically insert them into your lineup now if you had already played. So Josh Allen going up against the Cincinnati Bengals this week at home in Buffalo. This is going to be the 5th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per game basis. Josh Allen is on a bit of a skid over the last 2 weeks, but I do expect him to get back to his normal ways here as a very reliable top 8-ish quarterback. Again, the matchup here is very good for Josh Allen. Last week, he was the quarterback 13. I expect them to finish as a top 5 quarterback this week. Then we got Matthew Stafford going up against the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. Now, when it comes to Matthew Stafford, the team ends up taking an L to the Carolina Panthers last week, and Matthew Stafford had his first interception since week number 3 of the 2025 NFL season, and it was close to Black Friday, so he said, you know what, it's buy one, get one free, Cyber Mondays tomorrow, and he threw 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 243 passing yards to the quarterback, 20. Prior to that, though, we were used to Matthew Stafford being a staple inside the top 8 of my rankings, so one down game up against the Panthers is not going to sway me off of Matthew Stafford due to the amount of consistency that he has had this season, as well as due to the weapons that he has around him. This week's matchup is the 23rd best for quarterbacks, so while this isn't the wet dream matchup like Josh Allen has up against the Cincinnati Bengals, I am not worried at all. Then we got Joe Burrow going up against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. Now, Joe Burrow was a guy that I was very pessimistic about last week. Then you know what? Maybe we want to see it before we just throw Joe Burrow out there to the wolves and rank him as like a top 5 quarterback. Because if you guys remembered earlier on the season, even when he was playing, he wasn't this dominant quarterback 50 Shades of Grey style. But he comes back and he silences the Ravens. 24-46 for 261 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 INTs as the quarterback number 11, facing off up against the Buffalo Bills defense this week in Buffalo. I get it is the 2nd worst matchup for quarterbacks on a per game basis, but this game is expected to be one of the highest, if not the highest scoring game of the week. So I do believe that while the matchup might be tough, you still got to rock with Joe Burrow. Now we move into the tier 2 quarterbacks, the mid-range quarterback ones with Jacoby Brissett, Jalen, stop, it hurts, and Baker Mayfield. Now, Jacoby Brissett has been a top 12 quarterback every single start since he took over for Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray will not return this season. So if Jacoby Brissett finishes as a top 12 quarterback from here to the end of the season, that is absolutely insane. Since he took over in week 6, he's been a top 12 quarterback in all games. He has been a top 10 quarterback in all games but one. He has been a top 8 quarterback in 3 straight games. The LA Rams defense just got face-fucked by Bryce Young. I understand they're the 25th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per-game basis, and the fact that Jacoby Brissett won't have Greg Dortch or Maserati Marvin Harrison Jr. does suck, but he's still got Michael Wilson. He's still got Trey McBride. I still expect Jacoby Brissett to continue to put up big games because we talk about this all the time. When a player is on fire like Jacoby Brissett, you're not just going to sit him. You're going to ride out the hot streak. Then we got Jalen Hurts going up against the LA Superchargers in LA and SoFi Stadium. That game is on Monday Night Football, the 3rd worst matchup for quarterbacks on a per game basis. I understand that the Philadelphia Eagles offense looks absolutely terrible, but Jalen Hurts continues to put up at least respectable fantasy football showings. Over the last 3 weeks, he has scored 15 plus points in all 3 games. He was the quarterback 2 up against the Dallas Cowboys in week number 12. So while the matchup is tough here, and while the Eagles offense definitely has you pulling your hair out your head, I'm still rocking with Jalen Hurts. Then we got Baker Mayfield going up against the New Orleans Saints. Now, Baker Mayfield is another one of these guys that's on a bit of a skid. Right before the bye week, things were looking bad. 2 games in a row where he looked like Stevie Wonder throwing the football. Then they come out the bye, quarterback 7, back-to-back Michael Jordan, 96, 97. Things are looking on the up like that movie with the fat kid that knocks on the old guy's door. Then he's the quarterback 27, then the quarterback 18. Last time out up against the New Orleans Saints, he did not have a great showing. He was the quarterback 26, but I do expect things to look a lot better. This time, Chris Godwin is back. It's the 22nd best matchup for QBs on a per-game basis. I still am a believer in Baker Mayfield. Now we move into tier number 3, which is going to be the low-end quarterback ones. Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix, Daniel Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Jaden, Stormy Daniels, Lamar Jackson, and Sam Darnold. Now, I do have Patrick Mahomes ranked 3 spots lower than consensus. Consensus has Patrick Mahomes the QB 6. He's currently my quarterback 9. Why do I have him ranked outside the top 6 when I basically every single week rank him inside the top 6? It is because of the matchup. The Houston Texans are the worst matchup for quarterbacks on a per-game basis. So while you are probably still playing Patrick Mahomes, I will just throw out a little bit of caution this week. Just a little bit more caution than normal, where you're just closing your eyes and throwing the guy in your lineup. He was the quarterback 1 last week up against the Cowboys. He absolutely destroyed them. Quarterback number 1, like I said, 29 fantasy points, 4 touchdowns, 0 INTs. I expect Patrick Mahomes to look good here, but I just don't expect that crazy game out of him, like finishing as the quarterback 1 here in such a tough spot against the Texans. Then we got Bo Nix going up against the Las Vegas Raiders in Viva Las Vegas. Now, in terms of a matchup at the quarterback position, this is the 15th best matchup. Last time these two teams played, he was the quarterback 25, but that was a game in which only 1 touchdown was scored by both teams. I definitely expect things to look a little bit different. Now, I say this every single week, so I apologize if I sound like a broken record, but when you play Bo Nix before each game, Bo Nix flips a coin. If it lands on heads, he's Patrick Mahomes. If it lands on tails, he's Geno Smith, right? Last week, we got a rare middling game where he's the quarterback 14, but normally he's either bringing the fucking boom like Big Justice, or he's absolutely dreadful as like the quarterback 25 that you didn't even want to start. But at the end of the day, up against the Raiders, I just think since last time went so bad, the pendulum will shift. He looked great last week up against the Commanders. Now we move to Daniel Jones going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Duval. Now, when it comes to Daniel Jones, that game last week, he performed much better than I expected. He was going up against a strong Texans defense. He's the quarterback 17, 2 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. Now, why was I worried about Daniel Jones? Because going into last week, there was a lot of talks about the fibula injury, and I saw some practice clips where he wasn't moving like normal. Now, I know AI, you're talking about practice. I understand that, but at the end of the day, it definitely did worry me, especially matched with the tough matchup. But based on what I saw last week, he still looked like he's able to move his feet correctly. I didn't really think it looked like the guy's just completely fucked now due to the fibula injury. So going up against the Jaguars defense, that's the 10th best matchup for quarterbacks. You're going to like Daniel Jones this week. Then we move to Trevor Lawrence, the other quarterback in this game, going up against the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are the 21st best matchup for quarterbacks on a per-game basis. Now, I am as negative on Trevor Lawrence as you may find on YouTube. I shit on Trevor Lawrence all the time because I honestly think Trevor Lawrence should be playing better. Last week, though, quarterback 5. The game prior to that, he had a Jameis Winston game where he throws 3 touchdowns and 3 INTs as the quarterback 7. He's been a top 12 quarterback now in 3 straight games. And if you go back all the way through week 5, so week 5 through week 13, just 1 game where he scores fewer than 16 fantasy points. So while I still am very hesitant to give the Gawk Gawk 9000 special to Trevor Lawrence and claim he is this must-start top 10, top 8 option, he's really knocking on the door of becoming that. Then we got Jaden Stormy Daniels going up against the cold like Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. In terms of a matchup, this is the 26th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per-game basis. Now, Jaden Daniels is a guy that I'm going to be honest with you, he has been hurt 3 different times this season. He missed 2 games earlier on in the season with an injury. Then he has another injury where he misses week 8 against the Chiefs. And then he's missed the last gazillion games with that arm injury. So the fact that he's coming back in a lost season with the elbow, to me, doesn't make the most sense. I get, Nick, he's a football player. He's not a pussy like you. All you do is talk about football on the internet. I get it. Obviously, Jaden Daniels is going to want to play the game. But at the end of the day, it feels like with how many injuries he suffered this season, you would want to just wrap him in bubble wrap and sim to the end of the season like it's Madden, right? But instead, Jaden Daniels is going to go out there, and when Jaden Daniels plays, you are going to play him. Am I as confident as I would have been going into week 1? Obviously not. He has not performed great so far this season when healthy. He has just one game inside of the top 12. Now, I'm not trying to shit on him because he has multiple 20-plus point performances. And this matchup, though, just isn't the best. That's really the biggest concern for me. But again, if you've been waiting on Jaden Daniels to come back, you're probably going to play him. Then we got Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar Jackson's going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers in terms of a matchup. This is going to be the 8th best matchup allied. It's the 7th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per-game basis. So if Lamar Jackson was ever going to bounce back, it would be this week, which is exactly what I fucking said last week in the 5th best matchup up against the Cincinnati Bengals. So Lamar Jackson has not been playing well. I am very worried about Lamar Jackson going into this game. 3 straight games with 8 or fewer fantasy points. And at this point, I'm just asking him to get me fucking 14 fantasy points. I'm not asking him to score 30 like we know deep down that he can. Now, the expert consensus rankings on Fantasy Pros has him as the quarterback 8. I have no fucking idea how anyone that has been watching Lamar Jackson play can rank him that high. No fucking clue. I get, Nick, the matchup is so great up against the Steelers. Well, I would have said that up against the Bengals last week. And I also would have said he'll probably beat the shit out of the 14th best matchup, the Jets, in week 12. And he doesn't. I will excuse the Cleveland Browns game, but I can't excuse the last 2 weeks. So until Lamar Jackson actually puts up the fucking production you want, how can you truly trust him? Now, the biggest predicament here with Lamar is the second you put Lamar Jackson on your bench, you already know what's going to happen. Lamar Jackson's going to score 30 points, hit the fucking Marshawn Lynch hold my dick celebration, right? He's going to hit the Hingle McCringleberry, right? You are going to be so pissed off that you sat Lamar Jackson, but at some point, yeah, you might just have to. Then we got Mono Man Sam Darnold going up against the Atlanta Falcons in hot Atlanta, the 16th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per-game basis. Last week, the Seattle Seahawks defense dominated Max Brosmer, and Sam Darnold didn't have to do anything. He was the quarterback 30. The week prior, he was the quarterback 11, though, in 3 of the last 4 games under 8 fantasy points. So the panic alarm is starting to signal, but I do believe that this game with Seattle against Atlanta, it will at least be somewhat competitive. I'm not saying that the Atlanta Falcons are going to be up big with Cole's Cash, Kirk Cousins, and Darnold's going to have to throw the ball a million times, but it will at least be competitive enough for Sam Darnold to have to throw the ball, which was not the case at all last week up against the Vikings. Now we move into tier number 4, which is going to be the high-end quarterback 2s with Jordan, love me tender, love me sweet, Justin Herbert the pervert, Caleb Williams, Tyrod Taylor, and Tyler Shuck. Before we talk about the rest of the quarterbacks and then pivot into the tight end position, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying, then please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. It would help me out a ton. And I would also like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our partner over at Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog, sign up using promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description, you receive a free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus funds. As well as if you play $5 on the pick'em, you receive an additional $100 in bonus funds or in bonus entries. Now you might be thinking, Nick, how does the pick'em work? Well, the pick'em is incredibly simple. You pick at least 2 players, they're higher or they're lower. If those picks hit, you get paid. Now, if you do multiple other picks, then the payout will be higher, but all of the picks need to hit. Make sure you guys do check that out. Promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description. Now, back onto tier number 4 here. So Jordan Love, I say this every single week, Jordan Love is on a team that doesn't need Jordan Love to throw the ball a gazillion times for 300 plus yards and 2+ touchdowns to win games. They can easily, maybe not this week against the Bears, but in a lot of matchups, run the ball with Josh Jacobs, play great defense. Jordan Love throws a touchdown, 200 yards, and you get out of there, and he's like the quarterback 20, right? That's kind of his MO. Over the last 3 weeks, quarterback 8, 26, and quarterback 2 last week up against the Lions. I don't know if this game will be all that competitive. It should be, but you never know. This is going to be the 8th best matchup for quarterbacks. So if there ever was time for a big game for Jordan Love, it'd be this week. But again, I just still don't really trust him as this like reliable top 12 option. Then we move to Justin Herbert, the pervert, going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. He is expected to play with the hand injury. He had to get surgery on a fractured finger on his non-throwing hand, his left hand. Left hands up. Who are we? The Commanders. Now, does that 100% impact this play? No, right? It's not going to completely impact him, but not being able to grip the ball could be an issue. It could be an issue handing the ball off to Marion Hampton and Kamani Vidal. Could be fumbling issues. So it's something to worry about. It's not DEFCON 1 fucking panic. Wee woo, wee woo, wee woo. But it's also not, you know, wow, I'm super excited for Justin Herbert this week. Then we got Caleb Williams going up against the Green Bay Packers. This is the 27th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per-game basis. Caleb Williams, another one of these guys that's all over the place. No matter how good the matchup is, you never really know which version of Caleb Williams is going to show up. Now, last week, we saw a dominant rushing attack out of the Bears up against the Birds. Could they try that again this week? If they do, and it could work, Caleb Williams probably won't have his best showing. Then we got Tyrod Taylor going up against the Miami Dolphins. Now, Tyrod Taylor has been pretty reliable when he has started for the New York Jumbo Jets. I'm not saying that Tyrod Taylor is this must-start quarterback. Obviously, he's ranked as my quarterback 19, but he is a guy that is serviceable, especially if you're in a 2-quarterback or super flex league. The Dolphins defense has looked very good as of recently, and I will give them all the credit in the world for that, but they still allow the 9th most points to quarterbacks on a per-game basis, and I know for sure there are going to be multiple points in this game where the Dolphins should have Taylor sacked, down for the count. Instead, he breaks free, he's soaring, he's flying, he evades a tackle, evades the sack because the Dolphins defense can't wrap it up, right? They're like Tyreek Hill, right? The guy's got 8,000 kids, and it scares me, right? Because Tyrod Taylor can make plays with his legs, probably going to throw 2 touchdowns. I expect Tyrod to be fine this week. And then we got Tyler Shuck going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. In terms of a matchup, this is the 4th best matchup. Ultimately, the reason why I don't have him ranked higher is because deep down, does anyone trust Tyler Shuck? Now, I know he looked great in the second half against the Dolphins. In the first half, he looked like a blind man out there. So it's still very concerning. He was the quarterback 12. I'll give him a round of applause. I'll give him the credit where the credit is due. And this is the matchup for a great game. But if he scored 9 fantasy points, would I be surprised? The answer to that is fuck no, baby. Now we move to the tight end position with my high-end must-start tight end ones with Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, Tyler Warren, Travis Kelce, and Brenton Strange. Jake Ferguson was also in this tier. Now, ever since Jacoby Brissett came to town, Trey McBride has been a top 6 tight end in all games and scored a touchdown or more in all games but one. Top 2 tight end now in 4 straight games. I don't need to sit here and give this guy the metaphorical gawk 9,000 special for you to know you have to start him. I get, Nick, this is not necessarily like an elite matchup for tight ends. It's the 19th best matchup. It wouldn't matter what defense he's playing against. You're starting him. He's the unanimous tight end 1. Then we got Brock Bowers going up against the Denver Broncos. I know last time they played, these two teams went up against each other, he was the tight end 31. But the game isn't played on paper. The game isn't played on, oh my God, he was the tight end 31 last time, so he's going to be the tight end 31 again, right? That's not how the game works. They're going to go out there and they're going to play ball again. I get Geno Smith will probably look like absolute dog shit in this game, but Geno Smith looked like dog shit last week, and Brock Bowers was able to find the end zone not once, but twice. This is the 14th best matchup for tight ends on a per-game basis. He was the tight end 1 last week. You ain't sitting Brock Bowers. Then we got Tyler Warren going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Duval, the 2nd best matchup for tight ends on a per-game basis. A bit of a downward skid as of recently for Tyler Warren, but ultimately he's still a reliable top 6 guy in my rankings every single week. I have so much trust in him to be a top 12 tight end. And in a matchup like this, up against the Jaguars, the 2nd best matchup, you better believe he's going to be in your lineup. Then we got Travis Kelce, Mr. Swift, going up against the Houston Texans at home in Kansas City. This is going to be the 5th worst matchup for tight ends, but again, we play Travis Kelce every week. He has been a top 4 tight end since coming out the bye week 2 of 3 games. Tight end 4 last week, 5 of 6 for 45 yards and a tug. I do expect the Chiefs the Chiefs are in desperation mode. It is desperation mode for the Chiefs right now. They need this W. And when, Patrick Mahomes is a little bit worried, Kermit the Frog is a little bit worried, the ball is going to Mr. Kelce. Then we got Brenton Strange. Now, Trevor Lawrence loves him, a nice tight end. He just like me for real. I expect Brenton Strange to get peppered in the 4th best matchup for tight ends on a per game basis. Since returning, he's been a top 7 tight end in both games. Now we move into tier number 2 at the tight end position, which is my mid-range must-start tight end ones, which includes Kyle Pitts and Dalton Kincaid. Dalton Kincaid currently questionable. We'll talk about that in half a second. We don't have any news yet on if he is in or out. I personally think he'll play, but I will read more about that when we talk about him. Now, Kyle Pitts, last week, tight end 5, 7 of 8 for 82 yards. The game prior, just 5 targets, but in his game started with Kirk Cousins, he's had 9 targets, 5 targets, and 8 targets. So if he's going to get 7+ targets this week up against the Seattle Seahawks defense that allows the 5th most points to tight ends, I like my chances on rolling the dice with Kyle Pitts. I get the floor is very, very low with Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts isn't a guy that has a safe floor, right? The floor is like one of those fucking trap door, like the Sarlacc pit or whatever the hell that was called in, when, Luke Skywalker, I sound like a Canadian, right? Don't you know? In Star Wars, it's episode 4, 5, 6, when he goes to get Han, and Leia is Slave Leia, looking very nice, I like, with Jabba the Hutt, and Luke gets, he's standing over the trap door, he gets shot in there, right? We all know what I'm talking about here. Everyone's seen that movie. I think most people have seen that movie. I'd be shocked if there was say 2,000 people watch this video. If multiple people in the comments, like 5 or 10 people said they hadn't seen the movie, I'd be shocked. That has nothing to do with anything, though. Kyle Pitts, great matchup. The floor is low. The ceiling's high. We're playing Kyle Pitts. Then we got Dalton Kincaid, who is currently questionable with the knee and hamstring injury. He was limited in practice throughout the week. If he is cleared, it's a favorable matchup for him, according to the writer at Fantasy Pros, which would be true. It's the best matchup for tight ends. I know Dalton Kincaid hasn't played. He didn't play in week 11, didn't play in week 12, didn't play in week 13. We're now in week 14, so he's missed the last 3 games. He has the high upside. We've seen it this season. I'm playing him in the best matchup if he's available to play. Then we got tier number 3, which is the low-end tight end ones with Juwan Johnson, Darren Waller. Got the whole fucking team on me. Mark Andrews, Zach Ertz, and Colston Loveland. Juwan Johnson should get you 9+ points, right? It's hard to find a super reliable tight end, especially in this range, where we're talking about lower-end tight end ones, and that's exactly what Juwan Johnson is. This week, facing off up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 20th best matchup for tight ends. Nothing really to worry about for Juwan Johnson. I expect in the range of 9 to 13-ish points, and we've seen him score 19 points already this season, so he could definitely do that, but not as much expecting that. Then we got Darren Waller going up against the New York Jumbo Jets. Now, last week, he got eased in, right? They didn't go full-throated with him, right? They didn't go balls to the wall from the windows to the wall, right, with Darren Waller. He didn't play a lot of snaps, but he had 2 receptions on 3 targets for 47 yards, 2 Tagovailoa, 2 turn of the ball over. Missed him wide open in the end zone. Really pissed me the fuck off. And then the game's obviously close up against the Saints when it shouldn't have been. It should have been a blowout. Earlier on in the season, Darren Waller was a top 6 tight end in 2 of his 3 full starts earlier on in the year. They're easing him in. I expect him to get more snaps this week. He's going up against the Jets. I like his touchdown upside in this spot in the 17th best matchup for tight ends on a per game basis. Now we pivot to Mark Andrews going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going to be the 6th best matchup for tight ends on a per game basis. The team extended Mark Andrews. They said, fuck you, Isaiah Likely. 3-year extension, 3 years, $39 million for being pretty mid. For being pretty mid. Tight end 17 last week. Tight end 38 the week before. 17, 38. Shout out to Fetty Wap. 4 receptions on 6 targets for 47 yards last week in a great matchup against the Bengals. Just feel like he gets his lick back this week. Then we got Zach Ertz going up against the cold like Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota in terms of a matchup. This is going to be the 15th best matchup for tight ends. Zach Ertz this season, he looked great last week with Marcus Mariota under center, or however the fuck the announcer said it last week. He said it weird. So yeah, with Marcus Mariota, Zach Ertz is worse than with Jaden Stormy Daniels, who is playing quarterback this week. Jaden Daniels. So I got Zach Ertz inside the top 12. Then we move to Colston, love me tender, love me sweet, going up against the Green Bay Packers. I know, Nick, that's Jordan Love's nickname. I know, I got to think of another nickname for Colston Loveland, Colston Believeland here. Going up against the Green Bay Packers, the cheesehead fucks in Lambeau. This is going to be one of the, lower end matchups. It's the 22nd best matchup for tight ends. But the team doesn't have Rome Odunze, so we should see more Colston Loveland. I still can't fully bang the drum, though, because even without Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet's still going to cuck his ass. Now we move to tier number 4, and after tier number 4, you're basically just closing your eyes and praying to the gods above. The gods above, you're thinking Midas, Zeus, everyone. All the gods, you're praying to all of them, the fantasy gods as well. You're hoping it fucking works, and, it probably won't, right? So, Aaron Gadsden, Dalton Schultz, and Harold Fannin. Now, when it comes to Gadsden, 3 straight duds. Herbert's banged up. Everything's pointing negatively for him, right? The matchup's ass. It's the 3rd worst matchup. But something tells me, right when we all count out this motherfucker, he's going to go bananas. Because we've seen it before. Then we got Dalton Schultz going up against the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. Tight end 9 last week with C.J. Stroud, 7 of 8 for 55 yards. He's a safety blanket inside of this offense. My biggest issue with him is just he has 1 touchdown this year. I don't really see him popping off and winning you your matchup. To be completely honest with you, that's really my biggest issue with him. Plus, the matchup is the 27th best matchup. So, still like Schultz. Again, I like all these guys way better than tier number 5. Once you're in tier number 5, my oh my, Miss American Pie, it's looking bad. Then we got Harold Fannin going up against the Tennessee Titans in terms of a matchup. This is going to be the 24th best matchup for tight ends. I like Fannin, but the problem is the team really doesn't like throwing that much in the red zone. And the team also doesn't like throwing that much in general. Like last week, they're getting absolutely diddled by the 49ers, and they're still just running the ball a ton with Quinshon Judkins, which just does concern me in general for Harold Fannin. But tight end 12 last week, still feel good about him. Now, tier number 5, the YOLO tight ends, Dallas Goedert, Evan Ingram, and Mason Taylor. Dallas Goedert has fucked us 3 straight weeks right in the ass. 4 points, 4 points, 5 points. 5 targets, 2 targets, 4 targets. Jalen Hurts looks blind. How can you possibly like Dallas Goedert at this point? You can't. Tight end, 26th best matchup for tight ends this week. It's fucking brutal, man. Then we got Evan Ingram. If you want 8 fantasy points, you play Evan Ingram. That's probably what he's going to do. He had his best game as a Denver Bronco last week, 14 fantasy points. I would be genuinely shocked if he did that again. Then we got Mason Taylor going up against the Miami Dolphins. Tyrod Taylor has the offense looking right. This is the 3rd best matchup for tight ends. He had scored more than 7 points since week 8, but the matchup here is juicy enough to, if you have to start him, if your back's against the wall, there are worse options than these guys. But again, once you're in this tier, you don't want to be starting them. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you're enjoying, make sure you guys do hit that subscribe button down below. I just try to throw a left, and my left hand does work as well. Throw right there. My left hand not as trained as the right hand, right? I got the right hand of, Usyk or something like that. So thank you guys all so much for watching. I hope you guys do end up I hope you did end up enjoying today's video. I hope you guys do end up enjoying today's videos if the video's not fucking over. So thank you guys for watching. I greatly appreciate you guys. Hope you guys are having a great December. It's almost the holidays, so hope you guys are doing well. I love you guys so much. We'll be live tomorrow, Sunday, around 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Not going to guarantee it exactly 11. Might be like 11:05. Could be 11:10, but around 11. So make sure you guys do check that out. I do love you guys so much. Check out all the videos on the screen if you haven't seen already. Have a great one. As always, good boy.